Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 9 of the anime series Beautiful Bones, Sakurako's investigation. And it was actually kind of refreshing to let her hair down a little bit and catch up with Yuriko Kagami in the aftermath of having lost her grandmother. Some time has passed, about a month, I think the dialogue suggests, and she's kind of trying to pin down Sakurako's skills and abilities for the purposes of seeking out this painting that her grandmother had intended to gift her, and I guess she never specified which among all of their family paintings, the portraits that her grandfather had, painted himself, which of these would be the one she would choose for her granddaughter. And so she's trying to seek Sakurako's assistance in figuring it out. And at first I was kind of under the assumption, maybe there's something hidden in the painting, going along those lines again. Maybe there's a dowry or something, a bank statement, a bank book, something along the lines of that. But it was much more sentimental. And I liked that this episode really was emphasizing the smaller things, those more seemingly insignificant things that we take for granted every day. You're walking out the door to go to your job or to school, and you say to your parents or your siblings or your significant other, hey, see you later, I love you, and those kinds of things. And how just precious those moments, all the time we have as we're in this living, waking world with each other, how important those things are. They seem, again, in the daily routine, in the strife of daily, day-to-day living, going to work, going to school, doing all these things, just surviving. Sometimes we overlook all of those moments, and it's one of those things I strive never to let a moment go by, or too long a moment go by, a series of moments, before, reminding my sister, hey, love you, kiddo, and that kind of thing, or contacting my cousin, or my brother from another mother on the other side of the country and everything, and just very much wanting to commune and let the people in my life who I appreciate know. And that even goes for people commenting on videos and having the conversation back and forth, just letting people know they mean something to me. And I loved how that was the emphasis of this episode, and the parallels between Tatawaki and his friend Kagami. I mean, we're talking about, two young souls who have already lost a grandmother, and, it's such a thing that really plays heavily on you as a grandchild, because your grandparents are always going to kind of spoil you, unless you're in sort of a crappy familial situation to begin with. Grandparents tend to spoil their grandchildren, They don't have all the responsibility, the sort of ball and chain, if you will, of having a child. They are already done with that. They've already gone through that with your parents and everything. So now you can just sort of, celebrate the kid, have fun with the kid, take the kid on holiday and everything like that, but then send it back to the parents for all the troublesome stuff. And it's just one of those familial, communal things in the family unit. And I really love that, we're basically seeing they're still both very emotional about this loss, the loss they suffered, and they both still have things to learn. I mean, when you ask yourself, as you've been brought up in life, how well do I really know my parents? How well do I really know my grandparents? They're my parents. They're my grandparents. They're my authority figures, the adults who raised me and everything like that. You never fully get to be on the same level with your parents or your grandparents, the rest of your family sometimes, and even siblings, although my sis and I, were like best of friends because we lost our parents at an early age in life, which is why I find so much of this so heavily relatable and, discussion worthy. But there's a level of you'll never be on the same level as your parents as with your friends or something like that. You'll never necessarily know what they were like when they were your age, and they'll tell you stories, but I mean, you don't always necessarily see it from their perspective. It's a whole empathic thing as well. I feel like empathy is sorely lacking this day and age in people being able to sort of visualize themselves in another person's situation, or putting them in their shoes and everything. And so I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of really spelling out and delving into what we have yet to learn about the people we surround ourselves with. We can be penultimately happy and joyous that we have every waking moment with them that we have. We can celebrate that all. But then there's also that aspect of every step forward in life is not wasted as long as you're learning, as long as you're asking questions and trying to commune with the people around you and appreciate them and see them for who they are. And, in the case of Kagami, I mean, we're learning a lot about how her grandmother perceived her, how much she loved her and like sort of rose her up on a pedestal and just, it's that grandmotherly love that I'm talking about, and very much are we seeing, Tatawaki, he's on that kind of learning curve as well. It's kind of weird that he needs to kind of be told by Sakurako-san, handheld by Sakurako-san and Gran, to come to this conclusion, because he's a smart kid, in and of itself. The way he goes back and forth. I mean, even Sakurako's calling him a philosopher in this episode, talking about how those insignificant little things, those seemingly pointless things, are sometimes penultimately important to our happiness, to our joy, to our daily lives and everything. And she's kind of taken aback by that. But even him, he never fully understood why his grandmother would have him stop off and get this pudding that he so loved. I mean, my initial reaction was, she knows you love it. She knows it makes you happy. What they were saying about, Kagami and her grandmother, she just existed by the happiness that she felt in you. When she sent you this gift, you didn't really enjoy it. You didn't really like it. It wasn't what you wanted, but you didn't let any of that, bleed through your letter and thank you. Just celebrating the gift that you were given, because you knew she would be happy if she knew you were happy. And that's the same kind of thing here. That was my initial thought. It's like, hello, you love the pudding. She's asking for you to get it because she wants to see you enjoying it, doing something you love. She can't get out of her bed. She's bedridden. Unfortunately, she is succumbing to cancer. And it's just the light of her day is her grandson coming to visit and eating this pudding he so loves. She would rather join him in that and feel the happiness, even though it's not something she particularly cared for. It brings her closer to him. And then, of course, there's more of this analytical talk about, the sort of reality of the scenario. It also had to do with the pain, the severity of the pain she was in. She didn't want to seem frail and old and weak and in so much pain. They would give her painkillers to buy her time, and she would have him call first so she knew he was coming and she'd have time to prepare and all this stuff. And it's heartbreaking. It tugs at the heartstrings. I'm somebody who's been through this, in a sense, multiple times, unfortunately. And it really resonated with me. And I have to admit, I was kind of irked that we didn't immediately follow on from all of that curious stuff that built up in the last couple of episodes to do with Sakurako's own history, this case that as we end this episode, she's very much finally going to be delving into, putting a cap on the past. It seems like she wants to close a door. And I think we might see hints even in this episode as, Tatawaki breaks down and he's comforted by Gran, who tried to go and get up, and she's in pain herself. And my first thought was like, is she going to be dead by the end of the episode? She dying next episode? What's going on with Gran here? And once Tatawaki goes to leave, you have this confrontational dialogue between Sakurako and Gran, where she's first and foremost pointing out, you know this boy's name, you know who he is. Shotaro. Not Sotaro. Not, air quotes, my brother. It's not the same thing. And it's almost like, I think by way of putting Gran in check, Sakurako's keeping herself in check. She's reminded of him in her interactions, in her being at arm's length with Tatawaki. And I still very much hope we're going to get that much more in depth and come to understand how they came together, why they stay together as friends or whatever it is, how that relationship was forged and why it keeps going, how it endures. Because there is a closeness between them, in the fact that Sakurako told Tatawaki, be careful, take care before leaving. It was something, like very unconventional for her character. At one point, she leaves the room to get Gran some tea to save her from getting up because of her pain. And she talks about, as they're both crying over the revelation of how important family is and how these little moments are, and spreading the love and sharing the love, celebrating that familial aspect. You have Sakurako walking out of the room disdainfully talking about using up your water stores and getting dehydrated, crying in a sense. It very much seems like what's coming to the fore is she has been emotionally affected. She has been traumatized by whatever this loss is, whether her brother was murdered, killed accidentally. Again, like I say, whether it's a 180-degree turn from her seeking justice and the vibrancy of life, and he became somebody molded to darkness and destroying life, anarchistic and everything. Whatever it turns out to be, by the end, we see her going back to that billfold, that, you know, sort of folder, whatever it is, the documentation that she got off, apparently her uncle, for this case that she wants to get back to, and finally, for once and for all, put it to rest. And what could this be? It's anyone's guess, you know. But in that confrontation with Grant, I feel like it's setting up that knowledge for us, for we the viewer, that it's something very personally connected to and affecting Sakurako-san, and it has to do with her brother one way or the other. And I found myself watching the OP once again, and there's that point where she's looking longingly out the window and she's seeing her brother beckoning to her, and it's interspersed with the shots of whomever this enigmatic figure is. And it's interesting that, because, you know, you could make the argument that either they are one and the same person, or one is the killer of the other, and, you know, it's really open to interpretation thus far. I can't wait till we get there and figure it all out. And of course, the bumper cap toward the end of the episode unfolding as the end credits unfold is this girl is going for a walk. She's walking her dog. It sounds like her family is having domestic disputes going on. And she's talking about meeting up with whomever this is. You know, rising to her king, and we see the butterfly wings, and it's obviously attuned to whomever this enigmatic figure is. So it's like, bring on the next episode ASAP. I can't wait to figure this out, put all the puzzle pieces together, and just learn more. The more we learn about these characters and their surroundings and how they parallel each other and how communal they are in coexisting as friends, they're like their own sort of familial unit. You know, I think back to that one episode where they had like the barbecue and they had everyone get together at the barbecue. Like, they were one big family. You know, they've all had these experiences. They all relate to each other. And that's really what I feel like. I feel like, you know, we have these characters who are very familial because of all the similarities in their lives, all the hardships they've suffered, to keep making those steps forward and, you know, making those ventures forward, because they are all together in a sense. And at least that's what I took away from this episode personally. And so yeah, otherwise I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 9 of Sakurako's investigation. If you've seen it, if you enjoyed it as much as I did, if you had any further insights that I might not have spoken about, or speculations as to what you think this is all leading up to, whether you think we'll delve back into the past of Sakurako and Tatewaki and see how they came together. And otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.